Sometimes my friends or family will tease me because I eat kale like this right out of the bag. Now, washed. Now, I rarely sit down to eat because of my schedule, so it's partly just convenient. Now, I'd actually eat some right now if it wouldn't break my communion fast. But I'll tell you that the reason I eat kale is not because I like its taste, because I don't particularly. It's because I've been told it is good for me because of all the carotenoids, etc. it holds. There are other healthy things I eat that I actually am drawn to, like apples. You know the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And you can read about this, and some of you are much better than I am at all of this kind of stuff, ingredients, reading the labels. But it was over 20 years ago when this young priest, Father Steve Gilgim, got assigned to Most Sacred Heart Parish, where I was as the associate pastor. He, sweet man, ate very healthily, and he taught me to look at labels to find what ingredients were good for me. You know, we tend to look at what to avoid. Like, for example, I will always avoid garlic because it kills my stomach, and I avoid onions because they injure it. But Father Steve taught me to also look at, why is this good for me? Why is that good for me? Not just why is that bad? And that is the question for us this day. Why is this good for us? On this feast of the body and blood of Christ, we ask that question, why is this good? Now, there are many things I could suggest. I'll name just 3 today. The first reason this is good for us, one of the main ingredients that's wonderful here, is the gathering itself. It is good that we come together with other people who are just trying to be good human beings. Whether we're aware of it or not, just that alone affects us. It makes a difference somewhere in here. And when we're excited, it's good to have people who will celebrate with us. When we're heartbroken, it's good to have people who will weep with us. When we're terrified, it's good to have people who will stand with us. And that's what we do here. Now, we are each unique and very different. It was the author James Joyce who once said, describing the Catholic Church, here comes everybody. And it is true. We're very different. I mean, I look around now, I count 4, maybe 5 nice people. But as different as we all are, even if we wouldn't name it this way, one of the gifts is this is a taste of our common humanity. Here we kind of are reminded that we're all in it together. So number 1, the gathering itself is good for us. Number 2, now you would think this goes without saying, but this is good for us because here we meet Jesus Christ, who is present to us in all the ways that Christ is present here, in song, in fellowship, in the word, in a special focus today, and in the bread and wine that has become his body and his blood. When we take communion, we take in the one who is all the love in the universe. Now, I remember wrestling with that concept called real presence. I can't remember if I was in college or graduate school, and it was a friend of mine, Ann, who said, well, you know, you listen to Jesus and other stuff he says, you take him, his words very seriously. It was Jesus who said, this is my body, this is my blood. Why don't you take him at that word? I thought, all right, I will. Or there's this perspective, what this old farmer named Wally Freihout said to me once. Years ago, I was putting together a 10-part video series on the Eucharist with study guides, which they'd use in various parts of the country. And Wally was one of the people I interviewed from various backgrounds and walks in life. And after, we're kind of done, I said, Wally, anything else you want to say about the Mass? And the old farmer looked down for a second. So all I can think of is what my mom used to say, eat it, it's good for you. Well, there's that. It is. And number 3, it's good that we begin each week this day because this is about remembering who we are and why we are, and whose we are, really. We get so busy and caught up in so many details that we forget those crucial things. This helps us remember that we're not alone, that our lives are not all about us. It reminds us of what we say we really value. And when suffering visits us, we remember that we have a God who gets it, who does not send us suffering, but who chose to suffer with us. And at every Mass, he again pours himself out in love for us. When we hit the hard times, our Christ is weeping with us and working to bring good from it. And so, really, this kind of remembering is good for us. I don't think that we might often be aware of this, but you and I each have a place inside of us where we are hungry and thirsty for what is here. Early Christians who, for just gathering like this, could be persecuted or killed, have been reported to say, we could not live without the Eucharist. They were aware of that part in them that needed something like this. There's something that nurtures the most noble and truest parts of ourselves. And if I miss Sunday Mass, I miss all of that. So, that's it. I mean, you can argue there's plenty of reasons not to go. I get it. But when I take a second and think about it, it's really good to build into my week at the very beginning. This really is important to who I am. It's so good for me to gather with others. I meet Jesus Christ alive here, and I remember again who I am and why I am and whose I am. And that is good for me. Coincidentally, I ran into Father Steve Gilgem, that young priest, a couple of weeks ago. Now, he's been in the city working hard. I rarely see him. Just every couple of years I'd run into him. But when all the priests were gathered for the All Things New gathering right before the big announcements, I saw him, and it became an occasion to thank him for how good he was to work with and the blessing it was to the parish and to me. And had I thought of it, I would have said, and Steve, thanks for reminding me to look at stuff and ask that question, why is this good for me? Because that is the question now. Why is this good for us? Why is this good for you?